Hi, this is Richard Maurer. I am a doctor with Parkinson's, and I've received a question several times just in the past week about a compound called Semax, S-E-M-A-X. It's being touted as kind of a miracle cure for the brain, and people want to know whether they should take it. And I think it's going to relate to everybody, not just people with Parkinson's. So I want to share this with you. So the compounding question, Semax, again, it's S-E-M-A-X, is a peptide. It's a little protein structure that is what we call a neurotrophic peptide. It's drawn to nerve tissue. Its end result is it changes the messaging in the brain, and it triggers a release of another protein, kind of like a hormone substance, but it's a messenger protein called BDNF, brain derived neurotrophic factor. BDNF is like the growth hormone of the brain. Really cool stuff. Why should you care about BDNF? It helps combat depression. It helps combat neurodegenerative changes in the brain, which could result in Alzheimer's or other senile dementias. Maintaining good BDNF levels will help your mental sharpness as you age. I'm more interested in this, of course, with Parkinson's disease. You know, the degeneration of that nerve tissue around the basal ganglia, those dopaminergic neurons that are getting destroyed in a progressive disease like this. I have a lot of interest in finding a way to elevate a compound that actually promotes the growth and protection of these nerve cells. So BDNF always gets my interest when there's research about it. So what is it about this Semax compound, and why am I not taking it? It elevates BDNF levels in the brains of rats. It elevates at about 30%, so it's a significant elevation. It tends to peak at about 3 hours, and then it declines. The messaging does stay active even after it declines, so there is more BDNF signaling in those rats. So looks pretty interesting. What is it that we can do if we're not going to take some relatively untested compound? Exercise. It's pretty simple. Now, exercise, we've always known, has raised BDNF levels. Even walking regularly, your BDNF levels will stay more stable over time. You won't see those drops. It decreases stress responses, which can lower BDNF levels. So if people are really stressed out, they're not getting enough sleep, they have a poor diet, you will tend to see lower BDNF levels. So as BDNF stays more stable, obviously that's good. How can you elevate it with exercise? More intense. So high intensity interval training, get yourself to 80% of your maximum heart rate or more. Weight lift, even if that isn't raising your heart rate. Heavy loads on the body and the muscles tend to increase BDNF production, not just in the body, but in the brain. In the body, those elevations tend to be about 30 to 50%. We don't measure, there aren't many studies measuring the brain BDNF levels after exercise, because I think you have to cut the brain open to make that test. Pretty inconvenient. We're willing to do it on rats, but not on people. The BDNF level increase is certainly equal to or greater than, but it's done differently. You know, when your body is under heavier loads with weightlifting or the intensity of an endurance activity, the muscles produce this beta hydroxybutyrate. There's a compound that people who do fasting and really low carb diets know about. This is one of those ketone compounds. As those muscles secrete that compound, that triggers the BDNF production. And when BDNF goes up with exercise, it's that signaling stays there for 24 to 72 hours afterwards. So 1 to 3 days of elevated signaling for BDNF makes it sound a lot better. Now this is going to, if I build a lifestyle of exercise, my BDNF levels will be staying 30 to 50% higher and maintaining that over the course of days and days pretty consistently. If I'm using a compound, it'll go up 3 hours later. It's transient. It's on its way back down again. I have to use it again. And it's not occurring for the natural reason we evolved to secrete BDNF. I usually want to mimic the most natural process and mechanism as possible. Since we're dealing with something, the Semax is a human modified synthetic neurotropic peptide. We don't really know as much as I think we need to know before bringing this into use. So there are a whole lot of people online out there touting it for longevity clinics and for brain diseases. They're really skating on very, very thin ice, in my opinion. And there are natural ways of doing this. Are there ways of eating to raise your BDNF levels? Yes, there's chocolate studies showing that BDNF goes up. There's green tea, there's turmeric extract, there's blueberries and pomegranate seeds, and high fiber diets, the more whole grains, lots of fibrous vegetables, legumes. When we see that in the diet, something's happening in the gut that does seem to elevate our BDNF signaling. Cool stuff. I'd rather do this through diet. I'd rather do this through vigorous exercise, which I'm about to go do because I've been sitting in front of the computer a little long. Hope this is helpful for you. And maybe a signal, another encouragement to work out a little more intensively. If you check the box after your workout that says, that was really intense, that's probably a good thing. And you probably secreted a compound that's making your brain a little more resilient, a little bit stronger, and a little bit more protective towards the destruction that might be taking place with time or with some other underlying condition. Again, this is Richard Maurer, doctor with Parkinson's, and I hope this has been helpful for you. Be well.